a thumbnail this time, so hey, whatever. But so today we are going to be going over a few products. If you can't hear me for some reason, let me know. I do have my Rode mic on. Hopefully it's working. It should be. I don't have anybody in attendance quite yet. So please let me know if you can't hear the audio on this. But today we're going to be doing 3 reviews. One is the a new saw, and one is going to be the rigid nail, like finish nailer, the 18 gauge or 16 gauge finish nailer, pneumatic, and then earplugs that we're going to go over today. But before I do that, I want to talk about a topic. I get a lot of comments, and we all do if you do any kind of tool reviews or even just show you using tools, right? So like recently I've done some videos for short videos. If you haven't checked out my channel, please check out those. I've been doing lots of shorts. I'm going to start doing some long format here in the near future. So I'm also doing some member only videos. If you want to check that out, please feel free to subscribe and subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. Comment if you don't mind. I'd like to know your opinion on all this. So, but I get comments all the time. Anything that shows a Ryobi, somebody's going to, of course, say Ryobi or Ryobi, however you want to say it, is the worst product imaginable. Don't buy it. Okay. I don't believe that that's true. I believe it's pretty stupid to have that idea, I guess, but it's what people think. It's kind of crazy that that is a thought process when the tools are actually pretty good. However, that doesn't mean that they are made for every circumstance. I don't think that you should avoid them 100%, but I definitely think that you should understand their place in the tool industry and what you're using them for. So somebody commented later on, well, does that mean that you, or no, what did they say? They said you're underselling it or underrating it. Well, the truth of the matter is I am underselling Ryobi tools when I do reviews on them. Why? Because while certain tools of theirs are very good for the price you pay, they're not the best. They are, in an essence, the lowest tier of tools within a certain range that you can buy. I mean, that being said, there are some super cheap tools on what's it called, like Amazon. There are some super crazy cheap tools on eBay that you can buy that are just junk, and we all know that. No, I'm not absolutely broke, Nikki. Down the line says, hello, I have a 10-inch chopper. Yeah. Best investment ever. Yeah. So what's up, man, Joseph? And so here's the deal. I don't hate Ryobi, but I do undersell them a little bit in my videos, not because I'm trying to be biased, but because I'm trying to set expectations that I feel are real for their tool line. The reality of it is, yes, you can use them in commercial and construction zone areas, and they will last a little while, but I have the rigid 10-inch compound miter saw with a stand, and my father-in-law has the Ryobi that and my father-in-law has the Ryobi that I just reviewed on my, what's it called, shorts the other day on my YouTube shorts. And the reality of it is that they are not the same, right? Now, they're similar, and it's true. Inevitably, somebody's going to comment as well, oh, well, Milwaukee owns Rigid and Ryobi. Well, that's actually not true. The parent company, and I don't even remember the name of it, the parent company owns Ryobi, Rigid, and Milwaukee. And it is true that some parts are, like, some components do cross between some of the models. So some parts from like the Milwaukee would be in a Rigid and possibly even in Ryobi. Some parts in Ryobi are in Rigid and things like that. But that doesn't mean that the constructions are the same. It doesn't even mean the design is the same. Things are different between them, and that's why the prices are set like they are. So going to give you an example of the rigid chop saw, or they got me saying chop saw, compound miter saw versus the Ryobi that I just reviewed or used. So the Ryobi chop saw, compound miter saw, is pretty good. It's not a terrible saw at all. It has a decent amount of power. I don't feel that it cuts the same as the rigid. I feel like the arbor and everything and the rigid is a bit more stable. There seems to be a little bit of deflection in the Ryobi that I don't feel in the rigid. The protector case that comes over the blade seems to be just slightly better on my rigid, which is a couple of years old now, than the Ryobi that my father-in-law has, which is about a year or so old. And the trigger on them is easier to manage because you have that safety latch on the rigid than it is the Ryobi. So there are different little things that make the difference. The handle to swing the saw at different angles of degree for your different miter cuts is a little bit more refined and more comfortable to use on the rigid than it is on the Ryobi. I mean, there are differences in these, saws and their accessories. The rack or the stand that the Ryobi has for the miter saw is pretty simple and basic, and it's not terribly built. In fact, I think the product material is pretty much the same, but it's pretty rigid. It's a little bit more cumbersome to dismantle and to put together and all that stuff. Whereas the rigid is foldable and it also has wheels on it. Way more easy to transport. Once you set it up, it's super stable, and it's just a better system, to be honest with you, if you're going to be, moving it around regularly and things like that. Will the Ryobi stand the test of time if it's, in the corner of a shop and that's all it's used for? Probably. But if you're going to use it on construction sites and job sites, and if you're moving around to do different projects in different areas and locations, the reality is that the rigid is going to be better and you pay more money for it. I mean, that's the reality of what we're dealing with here. So I do understand that some people really love Ryobi or Ryobi, however you want to say it once again, and they really appreciate what it is that they're offering for those qualities of tools, that price range. And I do agree. I think that they are a merited tool line in the industry. I don't think that they should go away. I don't think that they should be bashed, as far as the quality goes. I do think, though, for sure, that the statement of how great they are should be tamed down just a little bit. There is clearly, so I just went and bought a new circular saw, right? Which we're going to review here in a minute, or at least get a first view at it because I haven't actually used it yet. And I looked at, I think my Home Depot here, we're in Western Colorado, so it's kind of a small Home Depot. I think they had, what was it, like 6 that were corded. And I do tend to like long corded circular saws for the work that I do. I don't hate cordless, but I just don't have the space and setup to be charging cordless for batteries for my circular saw as quickly as I use it in a lot of my projects. And I'm also cutting through because I'm making more like art, sculptures, and also furniture. And I'm using really thick pieces of ash wood, or I'm using really thick pieces of white oak and that kind of stuff. So it's very dense wood, hickory, elm wood that's really wet, even cottonwood that's not nearly as tough, but it's super stringy. And when I'm doing certain pieces that are bulky, they're green. And I find that the cordless circular saws, when I'm having to make rip cuts that are with the grain, they struggle to provide the performance that I want, and I have to constantly be changing out batteries. Versus a 15 amp, and that's pretty much all I use, is a 15 amp corded saw, just cuts through it and keeps going. And I think that that's great. I think that there is a place for both of those kinds of tools. And when I went and looked at all the tools that were available for me, there was, to be honest, very little difference in some of the Ryobi products and the rigid products, the Milwaukee products, the DeWalt products, and the Makita products. And I think they had one Bosch as well, as far as the feel of them. So Ryobi definitely has come up a way. However, what I do notice is in the mechanisms of how it works, it's different. Like, for instance, the latches for changing your angle or the depth of cut on your plate, they are more refined on a lot of the other higher end brands, or more reputable, or not reputable, but better known brands like DeWalt, Milwaukee, Makita, that kind of level. So there is a difference. Also, I noticed that Ryobi has a handle material that they commonly use on all their tools. Pretty much anything that has that kind of pistol grip feel, there's a certain material that they use, and it works well. On the other side, though, I've seen that it becomes a better quality material when you get up into the rigid line, and then even better when it gets into the Milwaukee line. And then the accessories and stuff that they put on also make a difference. There's more accessories that are on like the rigid and the Milwaukee than there are the Ryobi. You can buy different levels of quality products in the the DeWalt and the Makita lines. So you can buy like a cheaper circular saw that's a 7 1/4 through DeWalt, and it doesn't have rubber on the hand grip. It's just plastic. It looks much more basic. The casting of the plate and stuff doesn't look as refined. And sometimes you are just genuinely paying for a quicker turnaround of the product in manufacturing. So it's not that you're getting a less quality, it's just not as pretty, and things don't flow and move as easily. So like the low end DeWalt, which wasn't that low end in price, it was still $89, which, don't get me wrong, is not crazy expensive by any means, but it was, kind of plasticky feeling overall. It didn't have a rubber grip on the handle, and the plate, when you adjusted the height of the plate, just kind of felt crunchy and, not super great, if that makes sense. So where do you spend your money? Do you buy the low end DeWalt? Do you buy the low end Makita, when there's like 3 different options? And then of course you're paying for amperage differences. So there are some 11 amp by some brands, 12 amp, 13 amp, 14 amp, 15 amp circular saws. So those are all going to be different as well. And the determining factor in circular saws, for instance, is what amperage are you going to buy if they're corded. And then if you get into cordless, it's the voltage. What voltage do they have? How many foot-pounds of torque do they have? What's the RPM of the blade? If it's a circular saw and if it's a drill, there's all these different things. So the short answer after that explanation is, do I undersell Ryobi? And the answer is yes, I do. Because it's pretty much, in my opinion, if you're going to do any kind of regular work, it's the lowest price product you want to buy. Because I've seen the Hart stuff and I've seen some Cobalt stuff. The problem is that some of them seem okay from what I've seen online and things. I've never used them, but the availability of other tools to expand your platform and use the same batteries and get work done is very limited on all those other brands. Whereas Ryobi has a ton of tools. Now, to be fair, not all things are equal, and not all things are an upgrade from one brand to the other. So for instance, I've looked at that little shop blower that they have for rigid. It's orange. It's like a small little shop blower, and you blow things off. And the reality of it is I bought the Ryobi one, and when I looked and compared the two, they look almost identical. They feel pretty much identical. The only difference I saw was that the Ryobi one takes a battery with the stem in it that you insert, and the rigid one has their battery system, which is that, slide on. And there is something to be said for that. There is a difference there. Oftentimes it's weight. because that stem does add a little bit of weight. Plus the handles have to be shaped differently. They're a little bit larger in diameter so that pin of the battery can insert into the tool. Whereas the slide-ons are more compact. They're more compact handle as a general rule. There's a lot of little different nuances that go on with this that make one tool different than the other, right? So keep that in mind. I'm not trying to say that one is always better than the other. I'm just saying as a general rule, like looking at the rigid circular saw, it looked a little bit better, felt a little bit nicer in the hand than the Ryobi did. But you know what? I went with the Ryobi, and here's why. So here's the Ryobi circular saw that I bought. Sorry, it's going to be backwards, I think, for you guys because I am doing a live and it's on the, the face cam side. So here it is. This is a 7 1/4 circular saw. Of course, it comes with the 24 tooth blade. I'm not going to be using that blade. I will get rid of it very quickly because I don't do much framing or anything like that with my tools. Heavy duty 15 amp motor for cutting various types of lumber with 5,200 RPMs, lightweight design, laser alignment system improves cutting accuracy, bevel adjustment from 0 to 51 degrees with positive stops at 45 and 51.5. Air diverter and dust exhaust keep the line of the cut clear while directing particles away from the user. Spindle lock and onboard wrench. Storage for convenient blade changes. Ergonomic design with handle with overmold grip for added user comfort. And then it says specifications are 15 amp, 120 volt, 5,200 RPM, 2 7/16 cut of depth at 0 degrees of base plate, and then depth of cut at 45 degrees of base plate angle, 1 7/8, and then depth of cut at 51.5 degrees of base plate angle, 1 11/16, bevel 0 to 51.5, and then arbor size is 5/8. Pretty standard. Also, it says it comes with laser 24 carbide tipped blade, blade wrench, tool bag, edge guide, and operator's manual. So this is, I want to say it was $85 or $89 at Home Depot last night. We're going to open this up real quick and pull it out and kind of see what's, what it looks like and why I chose to go with this over the other ones that I was looking at. So to be fair, one of the big things to consider is price. Currently, I am shutting down my business and starting other work, and I'm trying to get this house finished up in the meantime. That means that I am on a budget, to be honest. I'm just on a budget. Whereas I might have bought tools in the past that were different. For instance, I really like the drive of a Makita. I like the way it feels in the hand. I just wasn't going to spend $230 on a circular saw when I don't have it. So this saw here is actually replacing a 15-year-old Skill saw, the actual brand Skill. Everybody calls these Skill saws because I'm pretty sure Skill was like the first one to come up with them back in the 50s or 60s or something like that. And they are, it's become a nomenclature for it that's not exactly correct to use when it comes to these. They're circular saws, not Skill saws. But everybody calls them what they're used to calling them, and it's been a tradition that stuck around for a while. Now, this one here, the wrench on this one is actually an old wrench. Some of the other brands send you a Allen key. I want to say the Rigid and Milwaukee come with an Allen key. This one actually comes with a wrench. However, this one does have an Allen head socket in there that you can use and, get your blade on, swap it out, whatever. I have, like I said, the 24 tooth that comes with it, but I'm not even going to use this thing because I don't do rough lumber cuts that frequently. And I'm going to go get me probably 44 tooth or something like that, and use that one. I do a lot of plywood and fine, you know, like walnut and stuff, and I like a finer cut. So we'll see about that. But this here, of course, has the old school storage. It's on the back of the tray. Now, to be fair, I can already tell that this is something that I'm not gonna like as much. Where this goes on, I don't know how well that's gonna hold, because there is just a little dimple there. I don't know if you guys can see that, but there's a little dimple that that's supposed to rest in, but it doesn't have another bar up here, so it doesn't put any tension down there. And this piece here, that little nub that you see on the front of this, is supposed to wedge in there and create friction. But I can already tell it's gonna rattle around and cause some noise. So what I'll probably end up doing is not storing it on the saw at all, and probably end up losing the wrench. But I've got Allen wrenches, so I don't really care. But just so you know, that is a design I don't really like. Just right there. It's just not super secure, and probably not gonna like that. Now, the top of this isn't bad at all. It's pretty on line with like the Rigids and the Milwaukees. I know at least one of the Rigids didn't have these bigger blocks on it, it seemed. And this is because that's the laser light or whatever. And back here is just part of their design for the dust collection of coming through. And I do think that the other ones were a little bit sleeker, which means it's easier to see your blade, especially if you're looking through the side window, which is what I do a lot. Unfortunately, I did not see this saw available in a left side blade. It was only right side blade. So there's that. What I was talking about earlier about the refinements is like this here. It's not terrible, but it does kind of, that's with the cam lever, you know, your thumb latch. That's with it all the way unlatched. See that tool is already coming out, so that's going to be a problem. And it does slide, and it's not terribly hard, but it is a little sticky. And my experience has been that doesn't really get better. It kind of stays that way. It might get better, but I don't adjust them enough to make it get better too frequently. And so if you buy like I know for a fact the Makita and the Bosch they slide better, the ones that I've used. So, you know, it's a preference. Does that matter to you? Well, maybe not. For me right now, it doesn't. You know, they have these plastic knobs on here, which are kind of hard plastic. They just feel a little brittle. So I wouldn't crank down on them too hard, which you shouldn't need to do anyway. You know, but so that's what you're looking at, is that you have some, you know, differences in just fluidity and play, and it's not going to be the same thing as the Milwaukee or the DeWalt or the Makitas or the Bosch or the Metabo or the Hitachi, or yeah, it's a Hitachi, I think it is. I haven't even seen that brand around in a while, because out here they don't sell it, so I can't even remember the name, but I think it's Hitachi. But Bravo 7 says DeWalt or Milwaukee, brother, is good and strong. Yeah, I'm not disagreeing. Once again, I believe that they are good tools. It's just for the budget that I have right now, for what I need, this will last me probably a couple of years with the way that I use it, and then it'll probably burn the motor up, to be honest. I mean, I'm just being realistic here. Now, the skill saw that I had lasted me like 9 years of hard use. I bought it like 15 years ago. My wife and I moved out of the country for almost a decade. We moved back. I got the saw back, and I have been using it to like cut crazy dense woods, really wet, stringy woods, and I rip cut and whatever on it, because once again, I'm doing sculptures and some like real block furniture out of massive blocks of wood, and you can't always, they'll probably never dry in our lifetime, honestly. Some of these, if they do, we'll be old people by then. So it's going to be green, and I'm cutting against that. And the skill saw did great. It's a skill branded skill or circular saw. It did great. But the arbor is getting janky, wonky on it, and it's just not as good. So there's that going on with it. And so I needed a new one, and right now, this one is the one that I got. Now, an interesting thing about this that I do want to talk about is, first off, the plate is a thinner plate than some of the others. Some of the others are like a thicker material, feel maybe just a little bit more solid. So keep that in mind. However, like DeWalt has one right now that they're selling at Walmart and online that's called their lightweight model, okay? And that one I want to say was 8.8 pounds or something like that. Or 8.2, I really don't remember, but it was in that 8 range. And then the Skill brand actually has one out, which is one of their newer ones, and it's kind of like that same like 8 point something pounds. The rigid one that I looked at was actually 9.1 pounds, I think it said. And this one is 7.9 pounds. So if you're looking for a lightweight saw, for a 7 1/4, this is one of the lightest on the market that I have seen. I'm not saying it is the lightest. There might be one that's lighter. But just so you know, this is a lightweight saw. But once again, we're talking about things that, are pros and cons. It's like $89, so that's a pro. It has all the features and functions that we need in a skill saw or a circular saw, so that's a pro. It has, I don't remember if it said what the length of the cord was. It might on the box, and I may have forgotten that it said it. Because some of them are only like 6.5 feet, and then some of them are like 10 feet. So that makes a difference for some people as well. I don't think that this one says what the length of the cord is on it. But, I use extension cords on almost everything, so I can get around that. That's not a huge problem. The cord on this one does feel like it's pretty well made. It doesn't feel like cheap stuff. It actually feels like it's a quality product that is, worth using, and that we wouldn't be ashamed of having or feel like is going to break. It's not like hard plastic. It's kind of that more rubbery plastic. So that feels good. It's nice and thick, which is good for the 15 amp, of course. It's got a standard decent plug with a holder clip on it, which, these things always end up breaking off or getting flared out, and then I just tie them up anyway. So that doesn't really matter. This looks to be about 6 foot long. So I would say it's probably around the 6.5 foot long cord on this. So there's that. Let's plug it in real quick and see. I've got an extension cord. Bear with me. I'm not going anywhere. All right. So we're going to plug this thing in. What I haven't looked up and don't know. Okay, so I don't have a blade on it. The laser comes on when you use it. Now I will say, however they have this set up, see here's the vent on the front for the blower. It's actually pretty strong. The thing is though, it is pointed forward, right? So it's pointed forward. So I don't think it'll have a problem blowing the dust off the line here. But if you're doing more precision cuts, you're often looking through the side window. And while some have the vents angled toward the blade, this one points more forward, and I'd have to cut with it to know. I don't know that it's really gonna clear in front of the blade as well as we would like. So we'll see about that. The handle grip is this soft rubbery feel with the hard, green plastic inlaid in it, and it's good and grippy. It's super solid. The front palm grab is great. It's not too small for my hands, and I'm 6'2.5" or 6'3" or something, I don't know. So I have fairly large hands. It's a decent size. It's got the nice grippy plastic on it as well. And it's not that T shape, so it's actually easier to grab. So that seems good. You know, the plastic is that typical plastic that's on Ryobi, which you know, one thing that I have noticed is that some other brands, the plastics, I'm not as familiar with Milwaukee, to be honest. I just don't own much Milwaukee. But like some of the Makitas and stuff that I've had and still own, the plastic seemed to be definitely a better quality, like just a little bit tougher than what I'm seeing on a lot of the Ryobis. So there's that to you know, consider. And other than that, I mean, it is what it is, right? Like it's a 7 1/4 circular saw that has a decent design to it. It's not outdated. It's definitely up on par with current designs. And yeah, it has a couple of things that are, you know, going to put it in that lower price range, but it also has some features that make it usable without a doubt. And it has the guide on it, and I should show that, this guide here. So, you know, you're going to put the guide. I've got to undo the screw real quick. I'm going to put the guide through here if you use this. If I can get it in, what's going on? Oh, that screw's still too low. Sorry, guys. So it just goes in like so. You know, slips through the other side, ideally, because if you take it out of that side, it's going to be wonky. And it's, you know, not super stable. Moves a little bit, but for rough cut stuff, it's not too bad. For general contracting, it's not too bad. However, for me, I have the Craig panel saw or crosscut saw. I don't know what they call that thing, but it's not, I have the track saw as well. Well, not the track saw. I have the tracks to convert your circular saw to a track saw. But I have the one that's like a big T with the plastic on the edge, and you can cut, and that one works great. I actually like that a lot. And I do have the track and the, you know, plate to convert my circular saws into track saws, which are okay. They're not terrible by any means, but you know, anytime you have to like purpose your saw for one thing and then another and then another. I mean, most guys in the industry that are doing this kind of stuff, they either buy purpose-built saws like the ones, even Ryobi has one now, but like, I think it does. But like Rigid's got one, Milwaukee's got one, DeWalt, Makita, of course Festool, which is a whole nother league, and whatever of saws and whatnot. So, you know, it's if you're into it and making that much money on it, then buying a purpose-built track saw is always better. Now, that's the Ryobi saw. This is the 15 amp. And I don't know what the product number on this one is. It also has a 3-year limited warranty, just so you know, which is not uncommon. But I do not know what product number on this saw is. It is, let me see if I can see it on the saw itself. Yeah, it's right there on the saw. I knew it would be. I thought it'd be harder to see. But it is a CSB. So this is a, right there. So it's a CSB 144LZ. CSB 144LZ. That's the product number on this saw from Ryobi. So you can look it up through that if you're interested or not. That's up to you. You know, I'm not saying you should buy it. I'm just saying if it fits your need, I don't think you shouldn't buy it. I don't think it's terrible. And so we have that. Then we have this guy here, which is the next product we're going to talk about. This is the 16 gauge, that's what it is, 16 gauge rigid pneumatic finish nailer. And it has their what they call clean drive system on it. It's got a super easy to open front area to, you know, do clean outs and whatnot. And I haven't had to use it more than twice in 3 years, honestly. So that's pretty good. And I've done a bit of trim work and nailing with this thing. I don't know. I can't tell you what the count is on nailing, but it's worked really well. I really like the trigger on it. It's super short, but not so short that you miss it, and it stays out of the way of my other hands. So I really like that. It does have multi nail setting where you can hold the trigger and just hit the wall, or I don't even know what that's called. If you guys know what it's called, you can tell me, because I don't remember what, multi-hammer or something like that. And then it's also got single, where you have to pull the trigger for every hit. So that's good. It's got your depth gauge setting here, so you can set how far the hammer goes into the material and how far you strike the head in. This is really good if you're swapping between like something where you're nailing to a softwood like pine, and then you're going to like trim work that's a hardwood like oak or ash or whatever, maple. You would want to change that so that you set those heads and don't have to go back and drive them with an awl or I forgot what the other term is that I was going to say, but like an awl to set the heads. It does come with multiple tip ends for different settings so that you can avoid damage as much as possible. That's something that I've never really fully gotten the hang of. I don't ever really change them. I just use the same one. I probably should play with some of the others, but I really haven't. It is air, so keep that in mind. This is not the cordless. This is the pneumatic. And it takes it'll hold about 1.5, maybe 2. It might be that it holds 2. I can't remember. Let me see if I can separate these. But it takes about 2 sleeves of nails when you put them in. So you get a number of shots out of it. It does have this unique feature on top. So the air blow off, you can change it. So there it's pointing backwards now. You can change it at like, I don't know, maybe 15-degree increments to turn it and blow it in different directions so that the air isn't like blowing dust in your face or whatnot, which is nice. And then the other feature on it that I've noticed is that it's got this spinnable clip. So it's just a hook. It doesn't have any kind of like tensioner in there when it's thick. So I'm sure it's designed, to go on like your bag or your belt, but it will hang on to your pant pocket, okay? Because I do that sometimes. I'm not doing like major work here in the house with it, so I haven't ever tried it on my belt because I don't wear a belt for a lot of the projects that I'm doing, because I'm up and down and designing a lot of stuff. We're doing some like mid-century design stuff in this house, but that is very handy. You can switch it from left to right side. You can put it at different angles on here. It's smooth enough to turn easily, but it also stays at weird angles if you want it to hang and swing a specific direction so that it's not like hitting you or bouncing off of you when you're walking and everything. It's not hard to load it. Of course, your sleeves go in here. I don't know if I can get these to come out with this on this model. Yeah, I can. Okay. So, bear with me 1 second. I'm pulling the nails out. This is a pass-by design. So I dropped those. Dang it. Like, hey man, what's going on? So you can push your nails in and then just pull it back behind it, and it catches the nails, which is, pretty modern and common these days. But just to give you an idea, you don't have to lock it back and feed them in. You can just push them in and then pull the hammer back behind them, and they stay. And that's it. It's like I said, this is just the 16. So this is going to be like a finish nailer. I use it a lot. I use it on my trim. I use it on my door jambs for certain things, like when we had to adjust the striker plate. The striker, I forgot what that's called, but the long strip that goes just inside where the door closes, we had to adjust it in because the wall was all screwed up, and you know, this took care of it and it's holding solid. So yeah, it's for the price. I looked at some other ones. It's really good. I'm not saying there aren't better ones out there. Once again, it is a rigid, so only expect so much of it, but it's actually been pretty robust. It's built really well. It does have, like, this whole piece here is plastic. This whole carriage system is plastic for the most part. It's not steel, so if you want something that's steel, this is not the one for you. So Stupid Roofer 5555 says, this just popped up in my feed. I'll hang out and see what this channel is about. Thanks, man. If you want to subscribe, please feel free to. It would be helpful, but I understand. I'm just glad to have you on. I'm just reviewing some tools today. I already reviewed a new, and I know everybody's gonna laugh, most people do, but it's a Ryobi circular saw, because I honestly just don't have the funds to buy a better one. And this one, in comparison to all the lower end price circular saws that were, you know, 80 to 100 bucks, seemed like honestly a pretty good option in comparison to the rest. So I'm going to give it a go. I don't expect it to last more than maybe 2 years, but you know, it is what it is. And I just finished up reviewing the rigid here. I don't even know what model number this is. I was looking for that, and I don't think they have it on here. They usually have it somewhere, but I don't see it on this gun. Oh, there it is. I wasn't looking for that. So this is the R250 SFF straight finish nailer. Min pressure 70, max pressure 120, 4.8 bar or 8.3 bar if you're going by bars. Minimal nail length is 1 1/4, maximum is 2.5. And then the fastener gauge is, of course, 16. So just, you know, like I said, this part of the body, you know, where the hammer is and the compressor side of it, the cylinder for the actual pneumatic side is all metal. It looks cast, so it's not milled or anything like that, which most aren't. But is it good casting? I wouldn't say it's awesome casting, but it doesn't look bad by any means. They finished it pretty well, and the texture of the casting and the texture of the plastic look very similar. They did a good job of designing it so it looks consistent, at least. And it's not terribly heavy. I don't remember what the weight is on it, but it's pretty light, so getting it overhead and things like that. Now, I have used some of the cordless finish nailers, and they're not bad. Even the Ryobi one is not bad, because I did use that one for a little bit too to test it out. What I will say is that most of the cordless finish nailers, you don't have to have the hose, of course, which is really nice. The problem with them is that I found in tight spaces, because they're electric with the battery, the head is bigger and it can be hard to get them into certain places. So I don't think they're a bad option. I just know that in certain cases, the narrow face and the narrow head of the pneumatic seems to work better. And since I only have one to do this remodel project with, I just chose to go with this one. I want to say it's like $89 or something, or $100 or something. Wasn't terribly expensive, and I've been happy with it so far. So that's that. Now, last thing we're going to review today. One more thing, actually. So I did forget to mention on the Ryobi, or Ryobi, however you want to say it once again, circular saw, I don't particularly like the trigger. It feels very plasticky, feels very on-off-ish. And I mean, that's how you run a saw, of course. You just turn it on and go. But it's like really clicky, and like the feedback on it's not great. It feels cheap. I mean, it is cheap, right? But it feels very cheap in comparison to other circular saws that I've used. So we've got that. Now, the last thing, and I did mention this earlier, but the circular saw does come with a tool bag to carry it around in if you need one. Most of us don't need that, but just FYI. last but not least are the Ruckus headphones by Elgin. And I have to come right back because I forgot them. All right, sorry about that. So these are the Ruckus headphones by Elgin. And these are, I want to say for the Ruckus model, they were like maybe $70, and I got them on sale around Black Friday for 45, if I remember correctly, or maybe maybe they were $60 brand new before the sale. Stupid roofers, DeWalt roofing nailers are the best. You know, I've actually used DeWalt framing nailers and I like them. They're great. I've used the rigid nailer no, yeah, was it rigid? I want to say it was a rigid framing nail, and that one seemed to have like misfires a lot. It seemed to have like hang-ups and whatever in it. I was using a different one the other day that was another I had a Porter cable pin nailer that I used, and that one got jammed all the time. I had to constantly open up and clean out the hammer, and I don't know. Each brand really has certain tools that they excel at, and that other ones that are hit and miss. I mean, DeWalt, Milwaukee, and definitely have like a good quality and high volume, large selection of tools that are just super high quality. And a lot of the brands like the Makita brands that I use and stuff like that are hangovers from the metal fabrication days, because for whatever reason, Makita, Bosch, Hitachi, Metabo, all those companies are a little bit, a little bit more focused on like industrial construction. So like big steel beams that you bolt together with impact drivers and impact wrenches and stuff like that. So there is a difference. It's not that they're bad tools, but they focus on different things all the time. And it seems like a lot of electricians use Makita and Bosch, and most woodworkers use like DeWalt, Milwaukee, Rigid, something like that. And then Metabo, I don't really know where they fit in anymore, because all these companies have been bought out. If I'm remembering correctly, Bosch owns Metabo. Well, not Bosch, but the parent. Is Bosch? No, a parent company owns Bosch and Metabo. Parent company owns Milwaukee, Rigid, Ryobi, and Hart. Then you go into other stuff that's like Stanley Black & Decker owns DeWalt. And then I don't know who owns Skill. I guess Skill does. I don't know if they're under a different brand or a different parent company or not. I can't remember. I don't, I'm not studying all this stuff. I don't remember it all. I just remember certain things. So, yeah, Stupid Roofer 555 says Bosch is the best bang for the buck. I really do like Bosch. In fact, is it John Malecki's sidekick on the show in his workshop that has like impact drivers by Bosch, and he just loves them? I don't know. I haven't used Bosch in a long time, other than like steel fabrication stuff. I've used steel fabrication like chop saws by Bosch, and they're really good. And like back when I was doing steel fabrication in a shop, they had like a bunch of $300 Bosch angle grinders, and they lasted forever. Same thing with the Makita. And then hammer drills. I know all the brands like Milwaukee and DeWalt and all those make hammer drills as well, but I never saw any concrete guys that were doing like real. And I'm not putting down Milwaukee or DeWalt. I'm just saying, like, we're talking like thick concrete, not like a little bit of sidewalk concrete or whatever for a residential electrician, but we're talking about like big buildings. I grew up around the Atlanta area, so it was close to the city, and there was work like that. And those guys tended to use like the Hiltis, of course, is pretty popular. Makitas, and the Bosch also has like big hammer drills, and Metabo and Hitachi and all those have and they liked them, but they're not cheap. I mean, none of that stuff's cheap, but they're not cheap. Which is funny because I was going to mention this in another episode, but now that Stupid Roofer 555 got me on the topic, it is interesting to me that like Makita, you guys could tell me better. Does DeWalt make a gas powered or an electric like concrete saw? You know, like the diamond wheel concrete saws? I don't know if they do or not. But you like the guys that traditionally use other tools, they almost always go, even like the guys that I know that are like diehard Makita fans. I know that Makita makes a concrete saw, but they tend to go with like the Steels or the Hiltis or something like that. So I don't know why that is. I guess the Steels or Hiltis are just better. I mean, my business that I'm closing down right now was tree climbing as an arborist. So I'm very, aware of Steel and Husqvarna and all that stuff. And I like both. I'm not a fanboy of one or the other. I think they both have good products, and some products by Steel are better. Some products by Husqvarna are better. It's just the reality of it. But I think they're both really good quality. And it is interesting to me that certain tools from certain brands become more popularized in an industry, even though people are fanboys of other tool manufacturers for like their regular tools. So just thought I'd throw that in there. We'll talk about some of that stuff in the future and go from there. Bosch Bulldog. I've got to look that up. Steel quickie saw. Yeah. Man, I tell you, like the Steel chainsaws, a lot of the firefighting industry uses Steel chainsaws with carbide chains on them to cut through roofs, through the shingles and the nails. And those things are mean, especially if you've got like a 500i, MS 500i, or the 400 or the 462, 661, something like that. They're mean saws. So, and they're very reliable. All right, guys, sorry about that. I lost sound because my microphone died, so I apologize. I thought it was charged all the way up and it wasn't. Can you hear me now? Can somebody respond to a comment? Let me know. I'll wait for a second because I know it takes a few minutes to. Yeah, okay. So I don't know where they're made. I couldn't see where it's actually manufactured. They were designed in Fort Worth, which when it says designed in Fort Worth, Texas, tells me they weren't manufactured there. I'm assuming it's probably overseas, like most things. We'll talk about overseas production in another video as well, because before I would own the tree service company, I used to work in manufacturing where I was a purchasing agent for raw materials, and I used to import stuff. And so I have a background in that. And I've been a product designer, tester, and like trade show not salesman, but representative for some companies in the arborist industry. So I have a varied background that helps me understand this stuff a little bit. And if you have any questions, I'd love to answer them. So leave those in the comments or email me. And thanks for watching the video up to this point. These have a wireless range up to 50 feet, and they have a 12-hour battery life, and they are USB cable chargeable. They have a reinforced case, and they have a controller with noise canceling mic in it, which I'll show you here in a little bit. They have 2 collar clips, and they have a 1-year limited warranty. Okay, so you'd need to look at the paperwork and all that to see. This is the basic form of how they look. I'll show you in person, but that's how they look, right? So here they are. Okay, so here they are. Let me see if I can hang them all in pretty close. And I'm assuming that this one is a weighted capacitor to even them out on your ears, but I don't know for sure if that's some kind of receiver and capacitor or if it's just weight to make it more balanced. I did try another pair, which we will review in the future, and they are the IsoTunes 2 Pro 2.0. We'll review those in the future. There's reasons, and I'll talk about that later, that we're not reviewing them today. And so a couple of things about these. These are just super basic straight earplugs. These do have a reinforced carbon fiber reinforcement on the wires, is what the package also said. So if you have weird angled ear canals, which I seem to, these fit pretty easily. You can just kind of angle them in and get them where you need them to be. And they work great. I really like these. But that all being said, they don't have 90-degree turns on the cable. So they do kind of stick out a little bit, which in certain cases, if you have them more like this, then they can get caught easier. If you have them more like that, they still stick out a little bit, but not nearly as bad. And then they do have the 2 clips, which you can clip to your shirt, which is super handy, honestly. To keep them in place so that they don't like fall all around your neck, right? That's a big thing. So I've worked with these for multiple hours and, moved around, and they're fine. If something yanks on it, the clip just comes off and it doesn't tear your shirt. So it's like a nice balance of pressure that holds them on, and something that lets go if they get pulled and tugged on, right? So that's always nice. You do not have changeable earplug tips. So if these don't fit your ears very well, that's just what you're stuck with. They're very similar to the plastic or rubber, earplugs that you buy and you put them in that look like this. They fit very similarly. So if those typically don't work for you, this model of Elgin won't work. Now, Elgin does have other models out there. I don't know all their models. I was looking for a specific price range. These did the job. They work really well with music, like most of these, because they're for hearing protection. You have a maximum decibel limit of 85, I think it is, for music. So if you want something that really blasts music in your ears, these are probably not it. For me, these are definitely loud enough. I can still hear, if my music's set on half or 2/3 on my phone, which I've got an iPhone 14 Pro Max, they work well. I can still hear some of my ambience around me, environment, so I can hear people yelling or whatnot. If I turn it all the way up, it can block out the rest, but it's just too loud for what I want. So just keep that in mind. They are pretty lightweight. They compact down into this little pack here, which is it's canvas material. It's not really padded. It's got a little bit of felt or something, velvet on the inside. It looks like felt. And it's got a storage pocket on top where you can put your USB-C cord. And They hold in there just fine. And that's it. Stupid Roofer 55. What's your music? Oh man, that's kind of hard to say. I'm all over the place with music, like a lot of people. I like a lot of classic rock, but like more Brit rock. So like the Kinks. I really do like the Beatles. I don't listen to them a whole lot, but I do like the old Beatles stuff. The Kinks. The Animals. I like a lot of that kind of garage rock stuff. I like what they call ska music, which is kind of a reggae-ish, but not really. Music. And then I like a lot of indie rock, so like Franz Ferdinand. The Kaiser Chiefs are one of my favorite. Loxley. Some of these bands you've probably never heard of because they're kind of indie and didn't never really make it. The Kaiser Chiefs have been on the radio and stuff, but Mondo Dio, some of that kind of stuff is music that I really enjoy listening to. So I listen to a lot of different things, and sometimes, believe it or not, I even listen to classical and not so much opera. I'm not into that kind of stuff, but I do like jazz and blues and Tremoto, yeah, saving, yeah. So there is these are really nice, to be honest. I'm really happy I bought these. I think that they are a good like mid-grade. I don't know that I would actually go down a level from these if there is a level under these. These are kind of like let's say these are like the base of what I think somebody should buy, to be honest. Now, Elgin, like Isotunes and the other brands, they do have independent earbuds that don't have the wire. They're just considerably more expensive, and they are, I lose them a lot of times. So I kind of like the wire because if one falls out, it hangs on and I don't lose it. Especially when I'm out and about or climbing a tree or whatever and it falls and then it gets hard to see under the brush. So really good buy. I don't regret it at all. It would be nice maybe to have just a little bit more decibel reduction in sound. I haven't worked a 12-hour shift with them yet, so I don't know how they do when they start to die. I don't know if it cuts in and out or if it just goes until it dies. That's also something to keep in mind because some do cut in and out as they die. This fits perfectly in like your pocket, your back pocket or your front pocket. Doesn't take up much space. It's pretty good, and I really like it. So yeah, that's kind of it for today. That's what I wanted to review. I try to give you guys more reviews. I do have a bunch of shorts on YouTube. So I have a bunch of different shorts that I'm doing. I'm not going to be a guy that is a fanatic about a tool. I'm never going to like promote one tool over another when like a brand as like, oh, you just must buy this. I'm going to try to give you guys straight and honest reviews of the products. Now, I'm going to try, I'm imperfect, but I'm going to try, I should say, not to go into the reviews with like a bias. So I'm not going to pick up like a Bauer and be like, just because it's Bauer, it's trash. There are some Bauer products that I've used that I've been like, yeah, this is awful. And I would never recommend it. And then there are others that I was like, hey, not terrible, still not my preference. If I had more money or if I used it more, I wouldn't buy this. But, this is kind of it. When do I typically go live? Well, I haven't been going live as regularly recently, but I'm trying to go live once a week. I was thinking about either Monday or Wednesday. Have you seen any people that you feel have more success or it's more common to go on Wednesday or Monday? Is there a better day? I can't Thursdays. Fridays, I've done that before too, but that starts to interrupt if I want to go out with my family or whatever. So try to keep Friday open. So I was thinking Monday or Wednesday. Any suggestions would be appreciated. Also, I hate to throw this guys at you. I do have a membership platform that I'm putting together. I'm not going to do tiers. It's just going to be one flat fee. It's going to be the $3.99 per month. I'm going to put up videos I'm not putting up anywhere else. I know everybody's getting inundated with memberships, so I get it. If you want to see just a little bit more stuff, if you want to have some personal conversations with me, I would love to have some members that could help support this channel. I'd really like to blow this up. I did arborist and tree work in the past and talked, and I had a podcast, and I was going to trade shows, and I was doing all this stuff. And for various reasons in life, I have decided to kind of leave that industry for now. I still have friends in it, and I don't hate it. I'm not like running away from it. Just I needed to change. And so here I am. I do mainly sculpting, artwork, and like architectural accents and designs for people. I build like some high-end furniture out of like wood that I personally mill, and most of the trees I removed myself. So if you want to see more about that kind of stuff, I do some handyman, like light construction handyman stuff with framing, and I've done some roofing in the past. Not that I say I'm a roofer, so please don't, judge me for that. But I have had experience with a lot of things, so I have a lot of tools as well. And of course, I just keep getting new tools. And one of the favorite things that I have is actually analyzing and reviewing things and mechanical things, how they work. So when we talk about this stuff, I'll try to express the nuances that I feel between one tool brand and another, and why I might prefer one over another. But I will never say you should only buy one or another, because to be fair, lots of tools, even the same tool, work differently for different industries. And for certain industries, that tool may be the perfect tool for you, but for other industries, it may not be the best tool. Also, we have price budgets and things that we have to work within. So please keep in mind that that's where my mentality is coming from for this channel. And I hope you guys enjoy it. I do have a lot, you'll see that I do a lot of Ryobi stuff because it's affordable. And I do have some of it because, well, it's affordable, and I don't use it enough to justify the $300 version from any other brand. Also, I do have Makita stuff, and I actually have some DeWalt stuff. The only thing I don't own, I don't think, I mean, I don't have any Hitachi or Metabo right now. And I don't think I have any Milwaukee, but I have Rigid, Ryobi, a couple of pieces of DeWalt, Makita, and some Harbor Freight stuff. I'm kind of giving the Hercules products a test, because I've heard they're actually kind of good. It's its own brand, by the way. What I understood, I just found this out. I found out. Oh yeah, sweet. That's cool. Stupid Roofer moderates a bunch of NASCAR channels on YouTube. Yeah, that's cool, man. That's awesome. What I found out recently, just to get back to what I was saying real quick, is that the what's it called? Hercules line is actually, I don't know, from what I understood, it's not owned by Harbor Freight. Maybe it is, but something I heard just recently made it seem like Hercules was its own brand, and they were licensed to only sell through Harbor Freight. And evidently the brand has been around for like a long time. Stupid Roofer, thank you so much. Hey, when we get off, please feel free to comment in one of my videos your channel. And because unfortunately, one thing about the live videos that I don't like is once I post lives, the comments no longer show up when they go public, when the video goes public and it's no longer live. And so I can't remember who commented what sometimes and whatnot. So if you would comment on one of my other videos, or if you want to look me up on Instagram, my name is Eric, ERIC _ McGrew, MCGREW on Instagram. That's going to be mainly arborist stuff, but if you want to DM me through that, you can. I think there's a link in my description on YouTube to get to those places as well. I would love to see your channels and see what's going on with it. So, yeah, I actually like this. There's a bunch of stuff to figure out in this industry, and I really, really like it. I am going to give you guys one reference that I think you should watch. Just watched it the other day. I think it's about 3 days old, maybe 4 days old. Izzy Swanson, if you're not subscribed to Izzy Swanson, he just recently put out a video talking about DeWalt's new panel material handler, that suction pad that goes on like pieces of plywood that is a grip and it suctions with a little compressor to it and you can move around. And he talks about it compared to the Grabo and a bunch of things, but he goes further into it, which he goes into some of the content of visual confidence and parallel thinking phenomenon. And that's pretty cool stuff. That's stuff that I know about because I was in the design industry and would like to get back into it, but the tool industry is way harder to get into unless you're making your own tools. So you might want to go check out Izzy Swanson's video that he just released on that stuff. It's about I forgot what the DeWalt tool is, but the Grabo, I think is what it's called, is the suction panel or suction tool for handling, wood, glass, marble, that kind of stuff, steel. And it was a really interesting, it's like 26 minutes long, but it's really interesting listening to it. So Stupid Roofer, hey, what's your name, man? Unless you want me to call you by your screen name. What's your name, bro? Stupid Roofer? So that I can be able to, know who I'm talking to in the future. But yeah, Andrew. Well, nice to meet you, Andrew. Thanks everybody for stopping by. Thanks for hanging out for a while, Andrew. I really appreciate it. I love the support. Please don't forget to comment, share, and subscribe if you haven't. Hit that bell if you want all the notifications. And you can set your preferences if you want to only get my lives, if you want to get every video, or just the shorts, or just the long formats. And I will actually be building some stuff in the future here too. Some are going to be architectural accents and some will be furniture. And we will be going through those processes in the future. So thanks everybody. Have a good night. And I will talk to you in the next one. Take care. And Andrew, I'll probably be here as of now, this coming Monday is what I'm going to try to probably set up, is Monday to do the next live if you're interested. So thanks everybody. Take care.